She woke at 3 in the morning to cold sheets and the smell of ink. The bed beside her held the shape of a body no longer there, a depression in the pillow, a wrinkle in the linen where his shoulder had been. Elara pressed her palm to the mattress. Not the cold of recent absence, the cold of hours. She found him in his study, bent over the drafting table, candle guttering in a draught she couldn't feel. The flame caught the wet sheen of fresh ink on parchment, white bridges arching over dark water, circular plazas, streets that curved like handwriting. A city she had never seen. Mattias. His pen kept moving. Confident strokes, no hesitation. What city is that? He said the name as if she should know it, as if it were obvious. Vethris. Where is Vethris? He looked at her then, and something in his expression made her step back. Not anger, not confusion, something closer to pity, the way you might look at a child asking why the sky is blue. It's where the bridges are, he said. He returned to his work. She returned to bed. In the morning, neither mentioned it. They had been married 12 years. Elara could chart that time in small rituals. Mattias checking his instruments each morning, the brass gleaming under his cloth, the same breakfast of bread and honey and weak tea. The comfortable silence of two people who had said most of what they had to say. He worked for the Cartographer's Guild, surveying trade routes and property boundaries, and his reputation was built on precision. He measured twice, 3 times. He did not guess. She had loved that about him, once. The certainty, the way his hands moved with purpose, even in small tasks, folding a letter, hanging his coat, reaching for her across the table. She noticed when the reaching stopped. It happened in pieces too small to name. He paused at doorways now, head tilted, listening for something she couldn't hear. He agreed to dinner with the Hennings without registering what she'd said. She could have suggested eating at the bottom of the harbour, and he would have nodded the same way. He stopped asking about her day, stopped asking anything at all. None of this was alarming. Marriages had seasons. 12 years taught you that much. But beneath the rationalizations, an older fear surfaced. They had never had children. In recent years, the silences stretched longer. She had wondered, in the small hours, if he stayed out of duty rather than desire. If she was simply furniture now, part of the house he maintained out of habit. She did not ask. Asking would make it real. The maps multiplied. She found the first one tucked inside a book she hadn't opened in months. A treatise on northern trade routes, dusty on the shelf. The map had been folded small and pressed between pages, describing ports she would never see. She unfolded it on the kitchen table. Vethris, from above. The same bridges, the same plazas, rendered with detail that made her lean closer, individual cobblestones. The wood grain on bridge railings. Shadows falling at angles that suggested a sun lower than their own. The second was in the household ledger, slipped between expenses for candles and salt. The third, pinned to the back of the wardrobe door. She pressed her fingers to the ink. Dry, but not old. She found 11 more that week. Always the same city from different angles. Always that impossible precision. Detail no surveyor could capture from memory. He drew it like he was standing inches from each surface, nose nearly touching stone. She went to the guild. His colleagues had never heard of Vethris. The archivist searched records back 3 centuries and found nothing. She asked merchants in the market, travellers at the inn, a scholar from the university passing through on his way to the eastern provinces. Blank looks, polite confusion. One woman crossed herself and walked away without answering. That night, she showed Mattias his travel journal. He had recorded a 2-day journey east to survey the city. Dates, expenses, observations about the quality of the roads. She checked the dates. "You were home," she said. "Those days. I remember. We had dinner with the Hennings on the second night. You complained about the fish." He pointed to his boots by the door. "Mud from the riverbank. The eastern approach is poorly maintained." The boots were clean. She had watched him polish them yesterday. He stared at them for a long moment, and something moved across his face, not confusion, but recalibration. The expression of a man who has caught the world in a small error and is patient enough to wait for it to correct itself. He returned to his maps without comment. The cellar door was open. Elara was certain she had locked it. She remembered the click of the latch, the particular resistance of swollen wood in the frame. She remembered because she had paused there, hand flat against the panels, listening for movement on the other side. Hearing nothing, relieved to hear nothing. The door was open now. Not ajar, not drifting. Open, wide, deliberate. The way you open a door when you want someone to see what's inside. Mud tracked down the stairs, though the cellar floor was dry stone and had been dry for the 20 years since the house was built. Footprints descending. None returning. She found him at the back wall, his palm pressed flat against the stone, fingers splayed. He was speaking in sounds that didn't fit a human mouth, not words in an unknown language. Sounds a throat shouldn't make. Consonants that clicked in the wrong places. Vowels that rose and fell like water through pipes. "Mattias." He turned, his eyes focused past her shoulder on something behind her that wasn't there. She did not turn around. "They're almost finished with the eastern quarter," he said. Calm, conversational, as if reporting weather. "The bridges are beautiful at night, the way the light catches the water. There are no bridges here." He smiled at her. It was the smile of someone who has received bad news and is trying to be gentle about delivering it. "There will be." She watched him sleep that night, at exactly 3. She checked the clock twice, 3 times, the way he used to check his measurements. His eyes opened. He didn't blink. He rose from the bed with the mechanical precision of a sleepwalker, but his eyes were open, his movements deliberate. He descended to the cellar. She followed at a distance, bare feet, silent on the stairs. On the cellar wall, the outline of a door. It hadn't been there yesterday. She was certain. She had pressed her hand to that same stone a dozen times in the past week, feeling for cracks, for explanations, for anything that might make this make sense. The wall had been solid. Now there was a door. Faint, like a water stain, but shaped too perfectly. Hinges on the left. A handle that cast a shadow before the door itself was fully visible. She touched the stone. It was warm, like skin, like something breathing on the other side. Mattias pressed both palms to the door shape and spoke those sounds again, the ones that made her teeth ache. She backed up the stairs. She did not sleep. The next day, she moved through the market like a woman walking underwater. Colours too bright, sounds too sharp. Henning caught her arm near the fish stall. "Is Mattias ill?" he asked. "I saw him walking toward the river at dawn." Looked half asleep. Elara stared at him. At dawn, she had watched Mattias eat breakfast. The same bread, the same honey, the same silence. He had not left the table. "He's fine," she said. He's fine. She couldn't remember the last time he had said her name. On the final night, the door was real. Wooden, weathered. Old, in a way, the house was not old. The wood, silver with age, the hinges green with something that wasn't rust. It stood slightly ajar. Through the gap, white stone, pale light, the sound of water moving beneath bridges. She had not slept in 3 days. The silence of the house had grown solid, architectural, another wall pressing in. She had burned a stack of maps that morning and found fresh ones in the drawer that evening, the ink still wet. Mattias stood at the threshold. His hand rested on the doorframe. He was looking at her. For the first time in weeks, his eyes focused on her face, her hands, her mouth. He saw her. She was certain of it. Something had surfaced in him, broken through the fog, and for one moment he was himself again. The man who had measured twice, who had reached for her across tables, who had said her name like it meant something. Elara. Her name in his mouth. She had forgotten the sound of it. "Come with me," he said. "I want to show you." She should refuse. She knew that. Everything she had learned in 37 years of living said this was wrong. That doors did not appear in cellar walls. That cities did not exist in the spaces behind them. His shadow reached toward the door, while his hand reached toward her. 2 directions, 2 intentions. The geometry of him was broken, had been broken for weeks, and walking through would break her too. But he was looking at her. She thought of the empty house, the maps she would have to burn, and the ones that would appear anyway. The questions no one could answer. She thought of growing old in these rooms that smelled like ink and vellum, eating breakfast alone, talking to guild merchants about a husband who walked through a wall. She thought of the silence. Not the silence of these weeks, but the silence of years, accumulating like sediment, pressing her down into the shape of someone who had been left behind. Some deaths are louder than others. She crossed the cellar. Her feet were cold on the stone. His hand was colder, but his grip was certain. The grip of a man who knows where he is going. "Show me," she said. She knew it was wrong. She stepped through anyway. Morning found the den house empty. The cellar door stood open, as it had for days. No mud on the stairs now. No maps on the drafting table, except for one. Vethris, incomplete. The eastern quarters still blank. The ink was dry. The candle had burned down to a puddle of wax. 2 sets of footprints marked the dust of the cellar floor, leading to the back wall. None led back. The door was gone. Just stone now, solid and cold, as if nothing had ever been there. But for a moment, as the light shifted through the high cellar window, a figure was visible near where the threshold had stood, wrapped head to toe in pale linen, face entirely obscured, motionless, watching the empty space where Elara had made her choice. Then the light shifted again, and the cellar held only dust and silence, and the faint sound of water that might have been the pipes settling, might have been rain on the street above, might have been footsteps on a bridge in a city that doesn't exist. Or didn't. Or does now, somewhere past the wall, where the bridges are beautiful at night, and 2 people walk together toward a light that has no source, because she had decided, in the end, that following him into the dark was better than staying behind in the quiet. Some choices are not between safety and danger. Some choices are between 2 kinds of disappearing. She chose the one that wasn't alone,